I'm tired of hiding like this, Samson, Assa said during one of his visits. Her tone was sharp, her frustration evident. You promised me this wouldn't take long. How much longer do I have to stay here? Calm down, Assa, Samson replied, trying to pacify her. These things take time. Lola is generous, but I need to gather more assets before we make any move. The sun shone brightly over Lagos, casting its golden glow on the bustling city streets. Lola, a hard-working and successful young woman, drove her sleek white car into the parking lot of a popular restaurant. It had been a long day at work, and she wanted to unwind with a good meal before heading home. As she stepped out of her car, head turned, Lola had a commanding presence, with her simple but elegant attire and a calm confidence that radiated strength. She approached the restaurant entrance, where the gatekeeper, a tall young man in his late 20s, opened the gate for her. His uniform was clean but slightly worn, and his warm smile revealed perfect teeth. "Good evening, ma'am," he greeted politely. "Good evening," Lola replied, pausing briefly. She noticed his composure and clear, articulate speech. It was unusual for someone in his position, but she brushed it off and walked inside. After her meal, as she returned to her car, she saw the same gatekeeper, now seated under a small shed by the gate. He had a book in his hand and seemed engrossed in it. Curiosity got the better of her. How many gatekeepers read novels during their breaks? "Hello," she said, walking up to him. The young man quickly stood up, slightly startled. "Ma'am," he replied respectfully, "you seem quite focused on that book," Lola said, gesturing to the novel in his hand. The man hesitated, then smiled. "Yes, ma'am, I enjoy reading. It keeps me occupied during quiet times." Lola nodded. "What's your name?" "Samson," he replied. "Samson Adewale." "Nice to meet you." "Samson, I'm Lola." They exchanged a few more words before Lola left, but that brief conversation lingered in her mind. There was something different about Samson, his composure, his intelligence. Over the next few weeks, whenever Lola visited the restaurant, she made a point of greeting Samson. Their conversations became longer and more personal. Samson shared bits of his story. He was a graduate, but life had been unkind. After finishing university, he struggled to find a job. Eventually, he took up the gatekeeping job to keep ends meet. Lola felt a growing admiration for Samson. Despite his struggles, he remained hopeful and dignified. He never complained, and his ambition shone through in their talks. One day, Lola decided to help. She had connections and wanted to use them to give him a chance. "Samson," she said during one of their chats, "you don't belong here. You're too smart and capable. Let me help you." Samson was initially hesitant. "Ma'am, I don't want to be a burden," he said. "Don't think of it that way," Lola replied. "Everyone needs a little help sometimes." True to her word, Lola spoke to a friend who owned a company. After a brief interview, Samson was offered an entry-level position. Overwhelmed with gratitude, Samson promised to work hard and make Lola proud. As months passed, Samson flourished in his new role. He saved diligently and began to rebuild his life. During this time, his bond with Lola deepened. Their friendship turned into love, and Samson admired Lola's kindness, strength, and unwavering support. However, not everyone was happy about their relationship. Lola's family, especially her elder sister and mother, were deeply opposed to it. "Lola, are you serious about this?" her mother, Mrs. Williams, asked during one of their family gatherings. "You are an accomplished woman. Why would you settle for someone like Samson?" "Mama, Samson is a good man," Lola argued. "He's hardworking and honest. He just needs a chance." Her sister chimed in. There are so many eligible men out there. Why him? You don't even know his background. I know enough, Lola replied firmly, and I love him so much. Her family's disapproval didn't waver. They saw Samson as beneath her, someone who didn't match her status or ambitions. But Lola was determined. She believed in Samson and their love. Against her family's wishes, Lola continued her relationship with Samson. They supported each other through life's challenges, growing closer with each passing day. Eventually, Samson proposed. It wasn't a grand gesture, but it was heartfelt. He got down on one knee in the modest apartment he had rented and said, Lola, you've changed my life in ways I never imagined. I want to spend the rest of my life making you as happy as you've made me. Will you marry me? Lola said yes without hesitation. Her family was furious when she shared the news, but she stood her ground. This is my life. She told them, I've made my choice and I'm happy with it. The wedding was simple but beautiful. Samson's family attended, praising Lola for her kindness and generosity. They believed she was Samson's boss who had taken an interest in his well-being. They had no idea of the web of deceit Samson was spinning. For Lola, it was the beginning of a new chapter filled with hope and love. But little did she know, her decision to marry Samson would lead her into a storm she never anticipated. Life after the wedding seemed like a dream come true for Lola. She had married the man she loved despite all odds, and their simple home in Lagos felt like a heaven. Samson, now working in a respectable office, was thriving. The once shy and reserved gatekeeper had grown into a confident young man, and Lola couldn't be prouder. Samson treated Lola with respect and affection, making her feel appreciated. He would often express his gratitude for all she had done for him. You are my angel, Lola, he would say. If not for you, I don't know where I would be. These words warmed Lola's heart, reaffirming her belief that she had made the right decision by marrying him. Though her family still expressed doubt about Samson, Lola ignored them. She was convinced that with love and mutual support, they could overcome anything. A year into their marriage, Samson approached Lola with a serious look on his face. It was a quiet evening, and they were sitting in their living room after dinner. Samson cleared his throat before speaking. Lola, he began, I've been thinking about something for a while now. What is it? Lola asked, sensing the weight of his words. I want to start my own company, Samson said. I've learned so much from my job, and I feel ready to take the next step. But to make it happen, I will need some support, financially. Lola's eyes lit up with excitement. That's wonderful, Samson. You are ambitious, and I know you will do well. How much do you need to get started? Samson hesitated. It's a lot of money, Lola. I don't want to burden you. Don't think like that. Lola reassured him. We are a team, Samson. If you succeed, we both succeed. Tell me how much you need. Samson mentioned the amount, which was significant. But Lola didn't flinch. She dipped into her savings without hesitation, transferring the money to him the very next day. She even helped him plan the logistics, using her connections to secure suppliers and clients for his budding business. With Lola's support, Samson started his company, a small logistic firm that quickly gained traction. He worked tirelessly, and his determination began to pay off. The business expanded, and within a year, Samson was making a name for himself in the industry. Lola watched with pride as Samson's confidence grew. He was no longer the struggling gatekeeper she had met. He was now a successful businessman. They celebrated his milestones together, hosting small dinners at home to mark new contracts and achievements. Their home became a place of joy and laughter. Samson would often surprise Lola with small gifts, thanking her for believing in him. You are the reason I am where I am today, he would say. I will never forget that. Lola in turn felt fulfilled. She had always dreamed of building a life with someone who appreciated her, and something seemed to be that person. They attended events together, shared quiet evenings at home, and made plans for the future. Everything seemed so perfect. However, beneath the surface of their happiness, cracks were beginning to form. Lola's family remained distant, still skeptical of Samson's intentions. They rarely visited, and when they did, there was an unmistakable tension in the air. Lola, are you sure about this? Her mother had asked during one of her rare visits. Something seems too perfect. I hope he's not hiding anything from you. Mama, not this again. Lola replied, frustrated. Why can't you just be happy for me? Samson is a good man and he loves me. Her mother sighed but said nothing more. Lola dismissed her concerns, refusing to let anyone taint her happiness. Samson's family, on the other hand, had grown increasingly dependent on Lola. They often called, asking for money or favors. Samson assured Lola that they were just going through tough times, and she believed him. She sent money to his parents and even paid for his younger brother's school fees. After all, they were family now. Despite the challenges, Lola remained optimistic. She believed that their love and hard work would see them through anything. She continued to support Samson's business, often stepping in with advice or resources when needed. They talked about having children, though it hadn't happened yet. Lola wasn't worried. It will happen when the time is right, she told herself. She focused on nurturing their relationship, ensuring that Samson had everything he needed to succeed. At night, as they lay in bed, they often talked about their dreams. One day, we will travel the world, Samson would say, you and me, exploring places we've never been. I would like that, Lola replied, her heart full of hope. To everyone around them, Samson and Lola seemed like the perfect couple. But unknown to Lola, Samson was harboring secrets that would soon shatter her world. Samson and Lola's marriage seemed so perfect that their marriage seemed to last forever. Their laughter echoed in the house. Their dinners were filled with cheerful conversations, and their shared dreams appeared to be within reach. But gradually, Samson began to change. It started softly. Samson, once attentive and loving, became distracted. Lola noticed how he often excused himself to take phone calls in private, lowering his voice as he spoke. When she asked about it, he would smile and dismiss her concerns. It's just business, my love, Samson said one evening when Lola questioned him. Clients can be demanding sometimes. Lola, trusting his word, brushed it off, but the frequency of these calls increased. Samson began staying out late, claiming he had meetings or urgent business matters to attend to. Lola, supportive as always, encouraged him, believing his hard work was for their shared future. Unknown to Lola, these late nights and secret calls had little to do with business. Samson was making trips to a neighboring town where Assa lived in a modest apartment he had rented for her. Assa, growing increasingly impatient, had been pressuring Samson to let her move to Lagos. I'm tired of hiding like this, Samson, Assa said during one of his visits. Her tone was sharp, her frustration evident. You promised me this wouldn't take long. How much longer do I have to stay here? Calm down, Assa, Samson replied, trying to pacify her. These things take time. Lola is generous, but I need to gather more assets before we make any move. Trust me, this is all for us and our child. Assa wasn't convinced. She folded her arms, her lips pursed in anger. If you don't do something soon, I'm leaving. I can't keep living like this while you play good husband with her. Samson sighed, running a hand through his hair. Assa had always been demanding, but her threats made him uneasy. He had to keep her happy while ensuring Lola remained unsuspecting. Back in Lagos, Lola began to feel the distance between them. Samson was no longer the attentive husband she had married. He avoided meaningful conversations and often seemed preoccupied. One evening, Lola prepared his favorite meal, hoping to reignite their connection. But Samson barely touched his food, claiming he wasn't hungry. Instead, he spent most of his evening on his phone, texting someone with a slight smile on his face. Samson, is everything okay? Lola asked, her voice filled with concern. You've been so distant lately. Samson looked up, startled. Of course, everything is fine. I've just been under a lot of pressure with work and the business. Don't worry about it. Lola nodded, but the nagging feeling in her chest remained. She told herself that every marriage had its ups and downs, and this was just a phase. Samson's calls to Assa grew more frequent. Each time, Assa demanded more. Samson, I can't keep doing this, Assa exclaimed during one heated call. You said you would come up with a plan, but all I see is you getting comfortable with her. Are you even serious about us? Don't you dare question me. Assa, Samson shot back. Everything I'm doing is for us. Do you think it's easy? If I rush things, we will lose everything. Then let me come to Lagos. Assa insisted. I'm tired of being stuck here. I want to be with my husband. Samson clenched his fist, his patience wearing thin. And what do you think will happen if you come now? Lola will suspect something. Just give me a little more time. Soon, we will have everything we need. But Assa wasn't satisfied. She had sacrificed so much for Samson and their plan, and now she was pregnant. She wanted the life she had been promised, and she wanted it now. Despite his manipulative nature, Samson couldn't completely shake the guilt. Lola had been nothing but kind to him. She had given him everything: love, support, and the means to succeed. Yet here he was plotting against her with Assa. One night, as he lay in bed next to Lola, he glanced at her sleeping face. She looked so peaceful, so trusting. A pang of guilt shot through him, but he quickly pushed it aside. This is for the greater good, he told himself. Lola can take care of herself. Assa and the baby need me more. Assa's persistence grew stronger and her threats more frequent. If you don't let me come to Lagos, I will find my way there, she warned during one call. And if I do, I won't be quiet about it. Samson's heart raced. He couldn't afford to let Assa's impatience ruin everything. He needed to come up with a plan to bring her into his home without arousing Lola's suspicions. But time was running out, and Assa's demands were becoming impossible to ignore. Meanwhile, Lola, blissfully unaware of Samson's double life, continued to support him. She believed their marriage was built on love and trust, not realizing that the foundation was beginning to crack. Samson's life had become a delicate balancing act. On one side was Lola, the woman who had given him everything: her trust, her resources, and her unwavering love. On the other was Assa, the woman he had promised a future, now impatient and increasingly hostile. The tension was suffocating, and Samson knew he couldn't keep the charade up any longer. One afternoon, Samson visited Assa in her apartment. She was visibly upset, pacing the small living room with her arms crossed. Her growing baby bump only heightened her frustration. You think this is a joke, Samson? Assa snapped, her voice sharp. I'm pregnant, stuck in this tiny apartment, and you are out there living the good life with her. Assa, keep your voice down, Samson said, looking around nervously as if someone might overhear. Don't tell me to calm down, she shot back. You promised me a better life. You said this wouldn't take long. How much longer do you expect me to wait? Samson sighed, pinching the bridge of his nose. I'm working on it, Assa. You know these things take time. Lola isn't stupid. I can't just bring you into the house without a solid plan. Assa wasn't having it. She walked up to him, her finger jabbing at his chest. If you don't find a way to make this work very soon, I will take matters into my hands. I will go to her myself and tell her everything. The threat sent a chill down Samson's spine. Assa had always been fiery, but right now she was outright dangerous. Don't you dare, he said, his voice low and firm. If you ruin this, you will regret it. Assa smiled, unbothered by his warning. Then do something. Samson, and do it fast. Samson returned to Lagos with a heavy heart. Assa's word echoed in his mind, and for the first time, he began to feel the walls closing in. He couldn't let Assa's impatience ruin everything, but he also couldn't ignore her anymore. At home, Lola greeted him with her usual warmth. Welcome back, darling. Dinner is ready, she said, kissing his cheek. Thanks, Lola, he muttered, forcing a smile. He sat at the dining table, picking at the food she had lovingly prepared. His thoughts were miles away. Samson, is everything okay? Lola asked, noticing his distant demeanor. I'm fine, he replied quickly, just tired from all the running around. Lola didn't press further, but she couldn't ignore the nagging feeling that something was wrong. Samson had been acting strangely for weeks now, making secret phone calls, disappearing for hours, and offering vague explanations. She tried to convince herself that it was just work stress, but deep down, she wasn't sure. That night, Samson lay awake staring at the ceiling. Assa's threat had left him with no choice. He had to bring her into the house. But how? Lola wasn't the type to accept strangers without a good reason. And Assa's pregnancy made the situation even thicker. By morning, he had a plan. Over breakfast, he broached the subject with Lola. Lola, he began hesitantly. I need to talk to you about something. Lola looked up from her cup of tea. What is it? It's about my sister, Samson said, carefully choosing his words. Her marriage is falling apart, and she has nowhere to go. I was wondering if she could stay with us for a while. Lola's brow furrowed. I didn't know you had a sister. Samson smiled nervously. She lives in another city, and we are not very close, but she's still family, and I can't just leave her stranded. Lola hesitated. She had always believed in helping others, but something about the request felt off. For how long? She asked. Just a few months, Samson said quickly, until she gets back on her feet. Lola sighed. Okay, Samson, if she's your sister, I'll do my best to make her feel at home. Samson's relief was palpable. Thank you, Lola. I know you would understand. A week later, Assa arrived at their home, dressed modestly and carrying a small suitcase. She looked every bit the part of a struggling woman seeking refuge. Lola greeted her warmly, offering to show her to the guest room. Thank you for letting me stay, Assa said, her voice dripping with fake gratitude. I promise I won't be a burden. Nonsense, Laura replied. You are family, and family takes care of each other. Assa's eyes darted around the house, taking in its elegance. She couldn't help but smile inwardly. This was the life she deserved, and she was determined to claim it. At first, Assa played her role perfectly. She helped around the house, offered to cook meals, and treated Lola with respect. But her presence began to strain the household. Samson grew more anxious, constantly walking on eggshells to avoid suspicion. Assa, meanwhile, started making subtle comments and demands. Lola, this house is so big, Assa said one day. You must feel lonely when Samson is away. I keep busy, Lola replied with a smile, and Samson is always just a phone call away. Assa smiled. You are lucky to have him. Not all men are as devoted. Lola brushed off the comment, but something about Assa's tone unsettled her. She couldn't quite put her finger on it, but she felt that Assa wasn't as harmless as she appeared. Samson's nerves were fraying. Assa's presence in the house was a constant reminder of the ticking time bomb he was living with. Every time Lola and Assa spoke, he feared that the truth might slip out. Samson, relax, Assa whispered one evening when they were alone. You are acting so jumpy. It's suspicious. Do you blame me? Samson hissed. You being here is risky enough. Don't make it worse. Assa rolled her eyes. I'm here because you couldn't keep your promise, remember that? Samson clenched his fist, biting back a retort. Assa had him cornered, and he hated it. As weeks turned into months, Lola began noticing small inconsistencies. Assa's stories about her marriage didn't always add up, and Samson's behavior had become increasingly erratic. She tried to ignore the red flags, telling herself that she was overthinking, but deep down, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. One night, as Samson left the room to take yet another business call, Lola decided it was time to start asking questions. Lola's life had turned into a puzzle she couldn't piece together. Her once loving husband Samson was growing more distant with each passing day. Assa, the supposed sister-in-law, seemed a little too comfortable in their home. The little oddities that Lola had dismissed were beginning to weigh heavily on her mind. Assa's presence in the house started to disrupt the harmony Lola had worked so hard to maintain. What began as subtle remarks soon turned into bolder intrusions. Assa often inserted herself into private moments between Lola and Samson, offering unsolicited opinions or monopolizing conversations. Samson, you look tired, Assa said one evening as they all sat in the living room. Maybe you should let me help you with some of your business errands. I'm good with numbers, you know. Samson smiled awkwardly. Thank you, Assa. I will let you know if I need help. Lola watched the exchange with a growing sense of unease. Assa seemed too eager to insert herself into every aspect of their lives. It wasn't just her behavior, it was the way Samson responded to her. His tone softened around Assa in a way that didn't seem brotherly. Lola decided to take matters into her hands. She approached Samson one evening as he sat in their bedroom scrolling through his phone. Samson, can we talk? She asked, her tone serious. Of course, he replied, putting down his phone. It's about Assa, Lola began. She's been here for a while now, and I'm starting to feel like there is more to her story than she's letting on. Is there something you are not telling me? Samson's heart raced, but he forced himself to remain calm. Lola, why would you think that? She's just going through a hard time. What's really bothering you? I don't know, Lola admitted, her voice tinged with frustration. I just feel like something isn't right. You are overthinking, Samson said, wrapping his arms around her. Assa will leave once she's back on her feet, trust me. Lola nodded, though her doubts remained. She wanted to believe Samson, but her instincts told her otherwise. The tension in the house was unbearable for Samson. Assa's constant presence, Lola's growing suspicion. It was all too much. He decided to visit Assa's old apartment in the neighboring town to clear his head and strategize. When he arrived, Assa was waiting for him, her arms crossed and her face set in scowl. What are you doing here? She demanded. You are supposed to be working on a solution, not running away. I needed space, Samson replied, sinking into a worn-out chair. Do you have any idea how hard this is for me? Lola is starting to ask questions. Good, Assa snapped. Maybe that will push you to act faster. I'm tired of playing housemaid in her perfect little world. I want my life back. And you will get it, Samson assured her. But we have to be smart about this. If we rush, everything we've worked for will fall apart. Assa rolled her eyes. You've been saying that for months. Meanwhile, I'm stuck living under her roof, watching her act like she owns you. It's humiliating, Samson. Samson didn't have an answer. He knew Assa's patience was wearing thin, but he also knew that any wrong move could expose their lies. Back at home, Lola couldn't ignore the gnawing feeling in her chest. She began paying closer attention to Samson and Assa's interactions, their body language, the way their conversation seemed to stop abruptly when she entered the room. It all felt off. One evening, as she cleaned their bedroom, she noticed Samson's phone buzzing on the nightstand. He had left the room to get a drink, so Lola glanced at the screen. It was a message from someone named A. The message read, When are you coming back? We need to talk. Lola's heart skipped a beat. She didn't recognize the name, but the tone of the message was intimate. She quickly put the phone back, not wanting to arouse suspicion, but her mind raced with questions. Assa, emboldened by Samson's continued support, began pushing boundaries. She started making decisions about the household without consulting Lola, from rearranging furniture to dictating what meals should be cooked. Lola, I think we should hire someone to help with the cleaning, Asa suggested one morning over breakfast. We are always so busy, and the house is too big for just the two of us to manage. Lola forced a smile. Thank you for your concern, Asa, but I can handle it. Asa shrugged, clearly unimpressed by Lola's response. Samson, sitting quietly at the table, avoided making any eye contact. One night, Samson returned home from another business meeting. Lola decided she couldn't keep quiet any longer. She confronted him as soon as he walked through the door. Samson, who is A? She asked, her voice steady but firm. Samson froze. What are you talking about? I saw the message on your phone, Lola said. Someone named A keeps messaging you. Who is it? Samson's mind raced for an excuse. It's a client, he said quickly. I didn't tell you because I didn't want you to worry. They've been a bit persistent. Lola stared at him, searching his face for any sign of the truth. Finally, she nodded, though her doubt remained. Meanwhile, Asa grew more impatient. During a heated argument with Samson, she threatened to expose everything if he didn't act so soon. You promised me a better life, Samson, Asa hissed. If you don't tell the truth, I will. I'm done waiting. We are not doing anything, Samson shot back. If you dare ruin this, we will lose everything. Asa smiled. We will see about that. Lola's life had become a web of unanswered questions, but the nagging voice in her head refused to be silenced. Samson's behavior, Asa's growing boldness, and the mysterious messages on Samson's phone had pushed her to the edge of suspicion. Determined to get to the bottom of it, Lola decided to dig deeper. One afternoon, Lola decided to visit Samson's office unannounced. She had grown tired of his vague excuses about late meetings and felt that seeing his workplace might provide some clarity. When she arrived, his colleagues greeted her warmly. Good afternoon, ma'am, one of them said. It's nice to finally meet you. Thank you, Lola replied with a polite smile. Is Samson around? The man hesitated. I thought he was working from home today. He mentioned he needed to take care of some family matters. Lola's stomach dropped. Samson had left since that morning, claiming he had an important meeting. She masked her surprise, thanked the colleague, and left the office. As she drove home, her thoughts raced. If Samson wasn't at work, where was he? Her instinct told her to keep her discovery to herself for now. Later that evening, as Samson sat in the living room scrolling through his phone, Lola approached him casually. Samson, she said, I was thinking of surprising you at work today, but your colleague said you were working from home. I must have misunderstood. Samson stiffened but quickly recovered. Oh yes, I had some last minute calls I needed to take from home. Sorry I didn't tell you. Lola nodded, pretending to accept his explanation, but her mind was already forming a plan. She needed more proof before confronting him. The next day, Lola decided to follow Samson. He left the house early as usual, but instead of heading towards his office, he drove towards a neighboring town. Keeping a safe distance, Lola trailed him to a modest apartment complex. She watched from her car as Samson entered one of the buildings. Her heart pounded as she waited. After an hour, Samson emerged, accompanied by Assa. They spoke briefly before Samson left, leaving Assa behind. Lola couldn't believe her eyes. Assa wasn't just a guest in her home. She was living a double life with Samson. The pieces of the puzzle started to fall into place, but she needed to confirm the full extent of the betrayal. That evening, Lola acted as if everything was normal, but her mind was racing. The next morning, while Samson was at work, she approached Assa, who was lounging in the living room. Assa, Lola began, her tone calm but firm. I need to ask you something. Assa looked up, startled. What is it? How long have you been married to Samson? Lola's question was direct, leaving no room for pretense. Assa's eyes widened in shock, but she quickly composed herself. I don't know what you are talking about. Don't play games with me, Lola said, her voice rising. I followed him yesterday. I know everything. Assa's defense crumbled. She crossed her arms, her lips coiling into a bitter smile. So you finally figured it out. What took you so long? Lola's heart shattered at the confirmation. Why? Why would you do this to me? I welcomed you into my home, and this is how you repay me? Assa shrugged. You were too trusting. Samson and I needed a way to survive, and you were the perfect solution. Tears filled Lola's eyes, but she refused to let them fall. You are pregnant, aren't you? And it's Samson's child. Of course, Assa said smugly. He's my husband after all. That evening, Lola confronted Samson. He returned home to find her standing in the living room, holding her phone with pictures of him and Assa at the apartment. Samson, Lola said, her voice trembling. Tell me the truth. Who is Assa to you? Samson froze, his face paling. He knew there was no way out. Lola, please let me explain. No, she snapped, her voice firm. I want the truth, not excuses. Samson sighed, defeated. Assa is my wife. He admitted. We've been married for years. I married you because I needed your help. Assa and I were struggling. We didn't have anything. And you were so kind, so generous. You used me? Lola shouted, tears streaming down her face. You lied to me. You stole from me and brought your wife into my home. How could you do this? I didn't want to hurt you, Samson said weakly. I thought I could keep things under control. Under control, Lola repeated bitterly. You ruined everything, Samson, everything. That night, Lola discovered the truth about Samson and Assa was the darkest moment of her life. Betrayal coursed through her veins like poison, leaving her numb yet furious. She couldn't bear to spend another moment in the house that once felt like a sanctuary. In the dead of the night, she packed a small bag and drove to her best friend Amara's house. Amara opened the door to find Lola on her doorstep, her eyes red and swollen from crying. Without a word, Lola stepped inside, collapsing onto the couch. Amara closed the door, sat behind her, and pulled her into a comforting embrace. Lola, what happened? Amara asked softly. Through tears and choked words, Lola recounted everything, the lies, Assa's pregnancy, Samson's betrayal. By the time she finished, Amara's face was a mix of anger and disbelief. That man, that snake, Amara exclaimed. After everything you did for him? No, Lola, you can't let them go away with this. What do I do, Amara? Lola asked, her voice trembling. They've taken everything from me. My love, my trust, my peace. I feel so powerless. Amara shook her head firmly. You are not powerless. You are Lola Williams, the woman who turned that man's life around. Now, you need to reclaim what is yours. File for divorce, cut him off, and expose him for the fraud he is. Don't let him walk away with everything you've worked for. Lola hesitated. But what about the house? I can't just throw them out. What will people say? Amara's eyes gleamed with determination. You need to disgrace him and his family publicly. Let everyone know what they did to you. We will plan a family gathering. Invite your family and his, and you will tell them everything. He won't have the guts to deny it. And once that is done, you will throw them out. The next morning, Lola returned home. Her heart pounded as she stepped through the door, but she forced herself to smile. Assa was in the living room, lounging on the couch, while Samson sat at the dining table, looking like he hadn't slept all night. Lola, where have you been? Samson asked, standing up. Out, Lola replied curtly, brushing past him. Lola, please, I know I've hurt you, but Samson, she said, cutting him off with a sweet smile. You don't have to explain anything to me. I'm fine, truly. She walked into the kitchen and began preparing breakfast. Assa smiled as she watched Lola walk. She's taking this better than I expected. Assa whispered to Samson. I told you, she's a kind woman. She will get over it. Samson frowned. Lola's sudden shift in behavior unsettled him, but he didn't press further. Over the next few days, Lola continued acting like the perfect wife. She cooked elaborate meals, served Assa and Samson with a cheerful demeanor, and even joked around the house. But she avoided deep conversations with Samson, brushing off his attempt to apologize. Don't bother, Assa said to Samson one evening as they ate dinner. Lola is just trying to save face. She knows she can't compete with me. After all, she doesn't even have a womb. Lola's hand tightened around her fork, but she kept her smile intact. You are right, Assa, she said sweetly. It must be so hard for you, carrying Samson's child all alone. I admire your strength. Assa blinked, momentarily thrown off by Lola's response. Samson shifted uncomfortably in his seat, his guilt deepening. As days turned into weeks, Lola and Amara finalized their plan. Lola invited her family and Samson's family over for a special dinner to discuss important family matters. She didn't give them any details, ensuring that everybody would attend out of curiosity. The evening of the gathering arrived. Lola dressed impeccably, her poise masking the storm brewing inside her. Amara, her confidant and co-strategist, stayed by her side, offering quiet support. The guests arrived one by one, filling the room with a chatter. Samson's parents, who had always adored Lola for her generosity, were seated comfortably, unaware of what was about to unfold. Lola's own family, still skeptical of Samson, exchanged wary glances. Samson and Assa seated together, looking uneasy. The tension in the air was palpable. Once everyone was settled, Lola stood in the center of the room. Her calm demeanor commanded attention. Thank you all for coming, she began, her voice steady. I wanted to share some important news with you. Samson shifted nervously. Lola, what is this about? She turned to him, her eyes cold. It's about you, Samson, and your wife. Gasp filled the room as murmurs broke out. Samson's mother looked at him in confusion. Your wife? What is she talking about, Samson? Don't act surprised, Lola said, addressing Samson's family. You all knew, didn't you? You knew that Samson was married to Assa before he married me. You knew he used me, lied to me, stole from me just to support her. Lola, please, Samson began, but she silenced him with a raised hand. You don't get to speak, she said sharply. Turning to Assa, she continued, and you've been living in my house, eating my food, mocking me behind my back and in my face. You think you've won, but you haven't. Tonight, it all ends. Amara stood beside her, holding a stack of papers. Samson, Lola said, these are divorce papers. You are going to sign them tonight, in front of everyone, and then you and Assa will leave this house. You've taken enough from me. The room erupted in chaos as Samson's parents begged for forgiveness and Assa tried to defend herself. But Lola stood firm, her resolve unshaken. You betrayed the wrong woman, she said, her voice cutting through the nose. Now get out. Samson signed the papers, his hands trembling, with nowhere to go. He and Assa left the house that night, humiliated and defeated. Lola, though heartbroken, felt a weight lift off her shoulders. She had reclaimed her dignity and her life. The days after the explosive family gathering were a whirlwind of emotions for Lola. She had confronted her betrayers, reclaimed her home, and ended the toxic marriage that had drained her of peace and happiness. But with the storm behind her, it was time to rebuild her life and focus on herself. Lola poured all her energy into her job, determined to make up for the time and resources she had wasted on Samson. She worked long hours, taking on new challenges and projects that not only distracted her from the pain but also reignited her passion for her career. Her hard work paid off. Within months, she earned a promotion that brought her more recognition and financial stability. Lola also began saving aggressively, vowing never to allow anyone to exploit her kindness again. She started investing wisely, creating a future that was entirely her own. Amara stood by her every step of the way, encouraging her and celebrating her victories. Lola, you are unstoppable, Amara said one evening as they shared dinner. Look at everything you've achieved in such a short time. You are proof that no storm lasts forever. Lola smiled, feeling a warmth she hadn't felt in a long time. For the first time since the betrayal, she truly believed she was on the path of happiness. With her life back on track, Lola decided it was time to mend fences with her family. Her pride had kept her from facing them after their warnings about Samson turned out to be true. But she realized that family was her safe haven and she needed their support. One Sunday afternoon, Lola visited her parents' home. As she stood at the door, memories of their last conversation flashed through her mind. They had begged her not to marry Samson, but she hadn't listened. Now she was ready to admit they had been right. Her mother opened the door, her face registering surprise and then joy. Lola, she exclaimed, pulling her daughter into a tight embrace. Mama, I am sorry, Lola said, her voice breaking. You warned me, but I didn't listen. I was wrong. Her father joined them, his stern expression softening. Lola, you are our daughter. We were angry, yes, but we never stopped loving you. Welcome home. Her siblings too welcomed her back with open arms. The reconciliation was emotional, but it filled Lola with a sense of peace and belonging. From that day on, her family became her biggest cheerleaders as she continued rebuilding her life. Meanwhile, Samson's life was spiraling out of control. After Lola publicly exposed his lies, word spread quickly among his business associates. Clients pulled out of contracts, investors withdrew their support, and his company collapsed under the weight of scandal. Assa, who had once been so confident in Samson's ability to provide, grew increasingly frustrated with their dear situation. Their finances dried up, and they struggled to afford even the basics. The lavish lifestyle Assa had dreamed of was now a distant memory. Assa's bitterness towards Samson grew daily. This is all your fault, she spat one evening as they argued over how to pay rent. You promised me a better life, and now look at us. I'm not going to suffer because of your failures. Assa, please, Samson begged. I'm trying to fix things. I just need more time. I've given you enough time, she snapped. I'm done. The next morning, Assa packed her belongings and left, taking their child with her. She didn't bother telling Samson where she was going, leaving him alone to face the consequences of his actions. With Assa gone, Samson's suffering worsened. His once loyal family members, who had eagerly accepted Lola's financial support, now avoided him like the plague. His mother, who had often sung his praises, turned her back on him entirely. I can't help you, Samson, she said coldly when he visited her one evening. You brought this upon yourself. You had everything, and you threw it away. Even his siblings, who had once benefited from Lola's generosity, distanced themselves. Samson was left to fend for himself, moving into a tiny rundown apartment he could barely afford. He took odd jobs to survive, but the weight of his mistakes haunted him. As Samson's world crumbled, Lola's life flourished. Her career reached new heights, and she found solace in reconnecting with old friends and hobbies she had neglected during her marriage. She traveled, attended social events, and even began mentoring younger women in her field, encouraging them to pursue their goals fearlessly. Her family, now fully supportive, became her rock. You've come so far, Lola, her father said proudly during a family dinner. We always knew you were destined for greatness. One evening, as Lola reflected on her journey, she realized she was no longer angry or hurt. She had emerged stronger, wiser, and more resilient than ever before. Years later, Samson crossed paths with Lola at a corporate event. She was radiant, exuding confidence and grace. Samson, on the other hand, was a shadow of his former self, worn, thin, and visibly uncomfortable. He approached her hesitantly, his head bowed. Lola, he said quietly, I'm so sorry for everything I did to you. I was wrong, and I don't expect your forgiveness, but I needed to say it. Lola looked at him, her expression unreadable. Samson, she said after a long pause, I've moved on. I hope you find peace, but you are right. I can't forgive you. Goodbye. She walked away, leaving Samson to grapple with the weight of his choices. Lola's story became a testament to the resilience of self-worth. She had faced betrayal, heartbreak, and humiliation, but she had rebuilt her life on her own terms. Samson's downfall served as a reminder that greed and deceit could only lead to ruin. As she stood in her new home, surrounded by love and success, Lola smiled. She was no longer defined by the pain of her past. She was Lola Williams, strong, independent, and unstoppable. Lola stood at the edge of her balcony, gazing at the vibrant Lagos skyline. The cool evening breeze brushed against her skin as she sipped from a steaming cup of tea. It had been a year since she left Samson and began piecing her life back together. Though the betrayal had cut deep, Lola was determined to rise above it. Her career had flourished, and she had become an inspiration to many women in similar situations. Yet, a small part of her still longed for the family she had always dreamed of, a husband who would love her for who she was, not what she could give. One Saturday afternoon, while attending a professional networking conference, fate decided to intervene. Lola was introduced to Chike, a charming architect with a kind smile and warm demeanor. Chike had recently moved to Lagos to expand his business and had joined the event to connect with like-minded professionals. Their conversation started casually but quickly blossomed into something deeper. For the first time in years, Lola felt seen and appreciated for who she truly was. Chike admired Lola's strength and resilience. As their friendship grew, he learned about her past and marveled at how she had turned her pain into purpose. He often told her, Lola, you are a woman with a heart of gold. You deserve all the happiness in the world. His word resonated deeply, and slowly, Lola's guarded heart began to open again. Over the next year, Chike and Lola grew inseparable. They spent time exploring the hidden gems of Lagos, from late-night suya spots to scenic beaches. Chike introduced Lola to his family, a close-knit and loving clan who immediately welcomed her with open arms. For the first time in her life, Lola experienced the warmth of unconditional love and support. One day, as they walked along Takwa Bay Beach, Chike stopped abruptly, turning to face Lola. The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting an orange glow across the water. Lola, he began, taking her hands in his. You've taught me what it means to truly value someone. I can't imagine my life without you. Will you marry me? Tears welled up in Lola's eyes as she nodded, unable to speak. It wasn't just the proposal that moved her. It was the way Chike had consistently shown her love, respect, and kindness. This was what she had always dreamed of, a partner who saw her worth beyond material things. Their wedding was a simple yet beautiful ceremony held in Lagos, surrounded by close friends and family. Lola's parents, who had been deeply hurt by her previous choices, beamed with joy as they watched their daughter marry a man who truly cherished her. Lola, you've always been strong, her mother whispered during the reception, but I'm glad you found someone who can be strong for you too. Chike and Lola's life together was filled with love and mutual respect. They worked as a team, supporting each other's dreams while building a home filled with laughter and warmth. Lola continued to excel in her career, while Chike's architectural firm grew into one of the most sought after in Lagos. A year into their marriage, Lola received the news she had longed to hear. She was pregnant. Overwhelmed with joy, she called Chike, who immediately rushed home to celebrate with her. They prayed together, thanking God for the blessing they had received. The pregnancy was a smooth journey, filled with excitement and preparation for the arrival of their child. On a bright Tuesday morning, Lola gave birth to a healthy baby boy. They named him Udoka, meaning peaceful home. As Chike held their son for the first time, tears streamed down his face. "Thank you, Lola," he whispered. "Thank you for making my life complete." Lola smiled through her own tears, feeling a sense of fulfillment she had never known before. She realized that her past pain had paved the way for this beautiful moment. Every heartbreak, every betrayal had led her to Chike and their son. Lola and Chike's home became a beacon of love and hope. They raised their son with values of kindness, integrity, and resilience. Lola often shared her story with young women, encouraging them to prioritize self-worth and never settle for less than they deserved. Through her journey, Lola learned that life's greatest lessons often come from its deepest wounds. She had faced betrayal, heartbreak, and loss, but she emerged stronger and wiser. With Chike and Udoka by her side, she had finally found the happiness and peace she had always dreamed of. The story ends not with vengeance or regret, but with love, healing, and the affirmation that true happiness comes from within. The story also shows that betrayal is not the end. You can heal, move on, and build a better life. Forgiveness doesn't mean you forget the pain, but it frees you from holding on to anger. Lola's ability to forgive and focus on her own happiness is what led her to her true peace and love. Lastly, remember that real love is built on trust, honesty, and respect. Don't let anyone use your kindness against you. If someone truly loves you, they will value you for who you are, not for what you can give them. Always trust your instincts and choose your happiness, and never settle for less than you deserve. Life has a way of rewarding those who stay strong and believe in themselves. Sometimes, life can throw us into situations that test our strength and trust. This story teaches us that not everyone who enters our lives has good intentions. But even when people betray us, it's important to remember that our value doesn't depend on how others treat us. Lola's journey shows that self-respect and patience are key to finding true happiness. When someone betrays your kindness, don't let it break you. Instead, use it as a lesson to grow stronger. Always believe in yourself and never settle for a relationship where you are not valued or respected. True love is built on honesty, respect, and trust, not money or convenience. When you focus on your own happiness and purpose, the right people will come into your life. Just like Lola, you deserve to be happy and you deserve to be with someone who values you for who you are, not for what you can give. In the end, betrayal may hurt, but it can also lead to a better future if you stay strong and believe in yourself. Always choose self-respect and never give up on the possibility of a peaceful and loving life. And with that, my dear friends, our story comes to a close. But remember, the magic of storytelling lives on, waiting to whisk us away on new adventures, where the wonders of imagination know no bounds. Goodbye for now, and may your dreams be filled with joy, wonder, and endless possibility. Thank you so much for watching. Please kindly comment, like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more interesting stories.